What is up, everybody? It is your boy Farai. Thank you once again for tuning into another video, man. Shout out Notification Squad. Make sure to smash that like button and comment below so I know you're there. In today's video, we're going to be setting up effects sends, but this time via an analog mixing console. I thought it would be a cool video to really help you start to see sound in a more three-dimensional way. I learned on an analog console, the theory behind using effects sends, as well as, what you can do with them, etc, etc. So that's what we're going to be doing. I got a cool beat that we'll be using, but obviously you can use these techniques with whatever else with your vocals. We'll also be showing you how to set it up with an FL Studio, as well as how to set up straight up digital effects if you are using just FL Studio or whatever DAW you're using. Definitely make sure to check the links in the description for my vocal recording course, vocal mixing course, and vocal enhancer for FL Studio if you are looking to step your game up as an engineer. With that being said, let's hop onto the console. Let's get it. Okay, so let's get straight into it, man. So as you can see in FL Studio, we have a cool little project going on. I've got a few synths and that kind of thing that I will be sending out into the console, as well as some drums that are all summed to channels 1, 2, and then the kick on channel 3. We've got the synths on channel 7 and 8, obviously, because they're stereo. For stereo, you need 2 channels. So I'll kind of walk you through the process of the analog routing before we actually get going to the sends. The sends will be over here. We'll look at that in just a minute. But essentially, the way you send stuff out of FL Studio will be that you obviously route your sounds to a designated mixer track. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the synth right here, right? And as you can see, there's another thing going on right here. Now that is the return. This would be the send. Okay, so this is one way of actually sending and then receiving audio. The way I set that up is, as I said earlier, I've got channel 7 and 8 designated for the synths because they're stereo. I want 2 channels. So what I do on my Mode 2 interface, which is pretty cool, you can actually rename stuff using a Mode 2 interface. You can see I've got outputs that are called SSL 7 and 8, and that is right here. Pretty cool, right? But after we've done our processing and stuff out of the box, we obviously need to return everything back into FL Studio so that we can listen to stuff on our master channel. And the way that we do that is we then obviously route them back in via any insert or any input for this that we want, right? So we've got analog 7 and 8 set up. Now obviously your setup will be different, but that's the way I'm setting mine up. I'm going out of the Mode 2, out of 7 and 8, so out 7 and 8 and then back in 7 and 8 as well. I like that. So obviously if this is muted, we will get no return, but that's the way I set it up. So now that you kind of get how I'm sending audio in and out of the DAW, let's get into it. But firstly, let's crack some San Pellegrino because it is hot today, man. So shout out San Pellegrino squad. That's good stuff. Okay, so now let's get to our actual sends. So I'll actually run you through my console workflow, starting off with the line input. So after this signal, right, this cool synth that we have, I think it's a Serum synth, goes out of FL Studio. It enters the outputs, and then it enters the console via the line input section. Now, this is what makes having a console worth it. You get access to these wonderful line input level preamps. Obviously different consoles have different setups in regards to how you might have a console with mic inputs. The old SSL consoles have a switch that you can switch between mic input and line input. This is a strictly line input console, so you have to have already line level sounds, basically meaning samples, recorded vocals, etc, etc. So I like to drive those. I like to drive my signal into the line level input. So as you can see, when I actually press play, you'll see the lights light up green or yellow. And as you can see now, we have everything absolutely muted, but once I bring everything back in, we get some really nice kind of console warmth. And as you can see, the return level is a lot louder than what we send out. I like to kind of hit the console nice and green. So as you can see, if I don't drive it, you'll see it's green. And the level comes back pretty much the same, but obviously because it is analog, we can really drive it. Think of the Waves NLS. A lot of people like the Waves NLS to do something similar. I think the real thing sounds quite warm and fat, so that's what I like to do. Next, we have the inserts. Right now, the inserts are going to allow us to do some EQ. I'll leave that for a different video, but basically on my inserts are EQs then sent to a patch bay, sent back into the console, and then sent back to FL Studio. That's not too important for now, but just so you know, we've got some cool SSL 4000 series EQ going, just to add a bit of flavor here and there, and it sounds good. Okay, I can either then route that to the patch bay right here. If you just check down here below, go to the patch bay, we can go to some compression and that kind of thing, but for now that's not important. So yeah, man, that's pretty much how I have it set up. So now let's get into our sends. Okay, so I essentially have 3 sends set up on this console. I should have been doing this earlier, but yeah, line levels, okay, and then we have our effects send one, which is called the Q stereo send. Okay, the reason I like this is because it has a stereo, it has pan knobs, and the Q stereo is obviously 2 outputs that go out into my Eventide H3000. So we'll look into that later, but that's pretty much what we have going on, right? I got this one designated to send audio to the Eventide H3000 and then into the box, right, basically into FL Studio, running into analog 13 and 14 if you just look on the console right there. So the H3000 is not connected to the console other than receiving the input from this Q send. This Q send provides volume. Okay, so that's how we set that up. That is, send 1 is H3000. You can set these up to do anything you want. Okay, you can, people use these to set up headphone sends. I'm not recording, I use this strictly for mixing, so that's my best use for it. After that, I've got a mono effects send, as you can see right there, effects send 1, which is essentially effects send 2, really, you know, 1, 2, 3, but you know, that's just the way it's been labeled here. It could be called aux send, whatever, right? It's essentially a send. It's sending some of the original signal that's coming from the computer after the line inputs, and then we can duplicate that and send that to effects, and then we can actually affect our signal. This is my Delta Labs Effectron. Okay, that's the Delta Labs digital delay Effectron 2. This is the ADM you know, 1024. It's really cool. It's just this old school delay, and it's got a whole bunch of analog. Cool. You can do some flanging, you can do some doubling or echo, which is what we've got set up going. As you can see, those 2 knobs are, or those 2 buttons are enabled. So really sweet stuff. We can obviously affect the delay. We've got it set up, it's tempo synced, but you have to manually tempo sync it. That's what makes these kind of tedious to work with, but it is beautiful. It sounds really good. It sounds like an H3000 or a mono H3000 on steroids. So this is a 1980s device. Obviously the Eventide as well is a 1980s device. We've got it set up on the 518 micro shift and reverb setting. This is a pristine condition H3000 Model B. Beautiful stuff. Okay, last but not least, we have effects send 2, which is then sending audio to our parallel compression, which is a Symmetrix 525. This is just kind of a good old school cheap live sound studio compressor, really. And we've got this channel 2 set up as channel 1 does not work anymore, but this has Valley People chips in it, so it's really nice for parallel compression. I am thinking of purchasing a Valley People Dynamite, but it works really well. So there you go. Those are the 3 effects that I have going on. Now let's actually listen to them. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to tell you what I'm going to set up. Let's actually have some fun first, all right? Let me just walk you through. I'm going to play the track once over, and then I'll just mess around with some cool effects, and we can see what we'll kind of backtrack on what we've done. So let's get it. So as you can see, pretty cool, right? You saw me pretty much send some signal towards the H3000. If I actually just play some audio for you, you'll see me actually send some stuff. So let's do this real quick. So this is to H3000. Okay, H3000. And you should now see signal popping up over there. If I enhance the left channel, you can see it goes crazy. So as you can see, when I send audio to the H3000 via the mixer, audio actually gets sent to that designated console as well as the delay. There you go, boom, crazy, right? Now it's doing a endless feedback thing. Let's just kind of chill it out right there. But there you go, right? Pretty sick. So we also have one more thing going on, and this is a digital send in or this is via the mixer. But essentially 9 and 10 has been designated on my console to be sent to this cool device I got yesterday in the mail. This came from San Bernardino in the States, from a thrift store, and this is the Ensoniq DP2. Shout out to there's a dude called Espencraft. He was using this on his channel. He does cool 80s synth pop type stuff, and he was using one of these. He had a DP4, which is exactly the same pretty much, but it sounded so cool, and I thought, man, I gotta get one. So we also have a send going out of 9 and 10 into this box, returning into 9 and 10, I think. But if we just look at that on FL Studio, you can see that we have the send, okay, and we've pretty much got our synth being sent to this dummy channel. That dummy channel does not go to the main mix bus, right, because it's just a send. It needs to go out of 9 and 10, boom. And if I lift this up, we'll actually see the DP2's audio return in. I'm just using this for some more level. It's quite a soft box, but if you just listen to this, so a lot of fun, right? Okay, cool. So now that we've done that, let's kind of again do some more mixing, and then we can kind of just mess around with some cool effects and kind of make our sound a bit wider. So let's do that. So lots and lots of fun. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of and why we're using effect sends is, as you can see, was to create a really cool soundscape. Obviously I am overdoing it. Generally when you're mixing, you're going to be tucking these effects behind your sound so that things sound nice and fat. So let's kind of do that. I've got some more kind of synth MIDI things going on, so we'll kind of listen to some other ones here, and I've kind of named them as how I wanted to mix them. So let's listen to this delay piano, which essentially has no delay on it, but we're going to be using analog delays to enhance sound. So let's do that. So there you go, really cool, right? Pretty much what I'm doing right now is essentially DJing with this console. You know, it's kind of like the Ableton Live approach to how people would, you know what I mean, manually kind of ride stuff and do cool stuff. And the reason it's cool is because, you know, this delay is not set up perfectly in any way. It's just perfectly synchronized to be audible. I've added these two kind of lengths together, 1024 plus 256. And then I've just kind of delay factored it to kind of sync it up to the tempo of the track, which is 135 BPM. But that's really cool, right? So, you know, a whole bunch of cool stuff. As you heard right there, that delay was really sick. If I just do that one more time, let's just turn off the DP2 send so you can really hear that delay. But, you know, that really sounds good. It really reminds me of some like kind of German synthwave type stuff. Really cool, right? So we got some other cool stuff as well that I just quickly will run through. I don't know, I forget what this sounds like. Let's just listen to this. Alright, cool. A nice rock steady sounding R&B guitar. And let's see how we can use the H3000 to really just kind of fatten up that piano. So let's do that. So just so much vibe. You know, you can do this in your VSTs, but man, these are analog old school machines and they're pretty beautiful. So last one but on these, man, this is going to be a nice delay that I'm going to set up. I mean, a nice piano that I'm going to set up some cool sounding delays on. I think it's a bit more of a shorter or kind of more less complex. You know, the other one was stuttering quite a bit, dun, 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 kind of a new chord every bar. But this is a bit more slow sounding. So let's just mess with this and set up kind of a really nice delay as well. It also sounds like there already is some sort of chorus going on. Let's just make sure there's nothing on there. Alright, cool. You kind of immediately get that really hi-fi 80s, 90s. You know what I mean? Like Big Sean's gonna start rapping soon or something, right? Without the H3000, it's cool, but I mean, this H3000 just adds a really nice texture behind the said sound. And then let's go ahead and enable some delay. So what I've done is, if you mess with the feedback, the less the feedback is, the less times the delay is going to duplicate itself. So obviously a constant feedback is going to go, it's kind of going to go on forever. But if you set it quite conservatively, you just get a nice kind of general delay that you would get in FL Studio. So try this out as well with your standard delay. Mess with the feedback a little. So let's do that. But there you go. I think you now fully understand kind of the point that I was trying to get across, right? We could also use this for parallel compression as well. So this is parallel compression. I should have labeled this earlier. This is channel 16, 5 to 5, and then comp, let's call it. But essentially, if I wanted to really beef up the drums, so let's just say we wanted to really beef those drums up, I could essentially use these sends right here, which is the parallel sends that are going to go to this symmetric. So just pay attention how I am going to kind of send some of the kick to the comp, and then you'll see the comp kind of react. But there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, man. Definitely make sure to smash like and subscribe, and I will check you out next time. Peace out.